Welcome to AM Muscle Maintenance with InShape Fitness. I'm Coach Kim. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's podcast is called What Your Heart Desires. I came up with this podcast yesterday because yesterday in New York City, it was Martin Luther King Day, which meant the day off from public school, which for me, that means, generally speaking, the day off from doing a lot of client work. I was with my daughter, and it was 8 degrees, I think, as a high maybe, or 10 degrees as a high for New York City. So we stayed inside our apartment building in Manhattan the whole day. We literally never left the building. And my interest in doing this podcast today, I normally do a lot of cardio-focused work around the month of February because February is Heart Health Month. But we're talking about indoor cardio fitness today because these strange roller coaster weather patterns that we have, where there's been a ton of snow in parts of the Northeast and a ton of rain. There was an ice storm and all these freezing temperatures, and then really, really strange occurrences of storms forming at various times. So this up and down roller coaster weather means that you do need to have tools in your toolbox to do what you need to do, regardless of your, ability to be either near your favorite gym or to, throw on your running shoes and go to the park and go for a run or bike or whatever it is. So being able to exercise in your home is something that you've got to be able to do, even if you don't heed my always daily warnings about doing something every single day, which I promote doing in your pajamas first thing in the morning, because that is when you will definitely do it. But it is so important that you recognize that your heart is an action-oriented part of your body. It's a piece of machinery. It's made of muscle, right? It's a pump. It's a delivery system. And it has a huge job to keep your body going. The sheer beauty, the miracle of a heart being able to do what it does. The human body is such a miraculous piece of engineering and art, science and art. But the heart itself is so phenomenal because it is the way that your body absorbs all of the things that it needs to operate. From soup to nuts. I mean, your capillaries are the cellular respiration vehicle, the delivery people to every single cell in the rest of the body. You have to have that, exchange of nutrients and fluids across those capillary boundaries and throughout your body. That is how oxygen gets to your muscles. It's how vitamins and minerals are utilized for, cellular functions related to cell repair and recovery and rest, and everything that you need is done through the oxygenated blood that is sent out to your body, and then the carbon dioxide infused blood that has to go back into the center of your body to be recirculated, recycled back through your lungs to have the oxygen again. So you've got to really take good care of it. And one of the most, the simplest ways to do exercise in your home is to get up and move around a little bit such that you elevate your heart rate. Now, one of the questions that people ask a lot and they get concerned, and of course you have to talk to your medical professionals about your own body if you have any concerns about your heart health. You certainly should talk to your doctor about that. And if you're under the care of a physician, you need to make sure that you are cleared for exercise before you can exercise. However, there are questions about just the simple basics of your heart rate, right? Because if you go to a gym, or even when you talk to one of the trainers from my company or any other exercise specialist, they will talk to you a little bit about your resting heart rate, something that you should be able to take at any given time. But the true resting rate is going to come when you first wake up in the morning, because once you're kind of moving about during the day, it might not be an exercise level heart rate, but you are elevated, your heart rate is moving more obviously when you're moving around in your daytime activities than it is when you're coming out of your sleep pattern. So your true resting heart rate is when you wake up. But your target heart rate, which is loosely based on your age, is and there are lots of different ways to different resources rather for you to go to this. There's a really simple technique of subtracting your age from 220. Not at all a perfect science. It's definitely not a science at all, in fact, but it is the maximum pressure minus your age, which gives you an approximate for your actual maximum heart rate. And then your target heart rate for exercise is measured by percentages of that maximum. So 220 minus your age. So when you have issues with your heart health related to blood pressure, which is often, so that's a different thing. Your heart rate and your blood pressure have a relationship, obviously, but your heart rate is the number of times that your heart is beating. The pressure inside of your heart relates to the force of the blood against the walls on the inside of the heart, and it has to do with the blood coming in and the blood pumping rather, and the blood sitting at rest inside of the chambers. So you're safe to elevate your heart rate even if you have issues with blood pressure. But again, talk to your doctor. Make sure that you have a good sense for how your body works in terms of your heart health. But elevating your heart rate is something that you really should do every single day. What I did yesterday as a function of entertaining my daughter, first of all, and also getting our blood flowing a little bit, was to take a couple of trips down to our lobby, because we live above somebody. We're in an apartment where we have someone below us, someone above us, and I don't like to jump around in my apartment with a jump rope. We dance around in the apartment, and we did that too yesterday. But we went downstairs to the lobby and jump roped for about 5 or 10 minutes or something, and then came back upstairs. And we actually also took this other little thing called a lemon twist and did some jumping around with that. And we took the stairs a couple of times. So those are mechanical. There's sort of more activation than you might be looking for. And there are other things that you can obviously do related to standing still in your apartment. You can and Nelson Mandela was said to have done this in his jail cell for many, many years. Every single day, he jogged in place for nearly an hour. And, you've got a screen in your apartment. If you don't have a piece of exercise equipment, then, a treadmill or an elliptical, you can jog in place. There's no reason why you can't move your body without a piece of cardio equipment. Remember this as well. We are only in January, but we're getting close to April. And I always think about Earth Day from the start of the year through the celebrations we have in New York City, because it's really germane to the work that I do, that people understand the impact of our health habits on the way our planet is sustained. And bottom line, when you plug a big piece of cardio equipment into the wall, you're burning electricity that honestly we need to start thinking a little bit more about. So you don't need a treadmill. You can get by without one. It's not as fun. It's not as active. It's certainly not as efficient, maybe. You can't measure anything as much, but you certainly can jog in place. You can do some butt kicks. You can do some high knees. You can do some squats. You can do series. Any and all things are possible in terms of cardio work, jumping jacks, burpees. So I promised to have you try, though, a couple of exercises that are low impact, that are in 3 different starting positions, and will do the job. But just remember, for an everyday exercise regimen, you can do a variety of these things, and you should also make sure that you are dynamically warming up your core and making sure that your major joints related to your legs and hips, and then your chest and shoulders and back, are limbered up as you wake up and start moving around, and then potentially get down to business in your PJs like I do. But the first exercise is something that I call the forward reach. A friend of mine calls this the bird feeder. And if you are not familiar with touching the floor from a standing position in a straight-legged way, so I'm not talking about a hip hinge when you squat down. I mean to bend at your waist, keep your back straight, and let your arm drop towards the floor until you are either touching the bottom of your shin, or if your hamstrings are really tight, this might be difficult. But by turning your body, inverting it in the way that you do with your extended leg, lifting out, back, and up, your heart will elevate from the standing position without a lot of significant movement. Hold on to something as you practice these moves, and do part of the move first if you're just starting out. For example, if you are starting out and you stabilize your weight on your left leg, so you stabilize with your left hand, and then you extend your right arm up above your head, your right leg stays straight, and then again, you keep your belly button pulled towards your spine, your back is straight, your shoulders are back, and then you bend at your waist and start lowering your torso, and obviously your arm comes with it. Keep your ear and your bicep right next to each other. And then if you're horizontal, if you can make it to a horizontal position where your torso, your body, is in a straight line with the floor, pause there and then lift yourself back up slowly using the butt muscle, which is the muscle that's supposed to be the primary mover in this case. And then stand up, keeping your back straight and keeping your belly button pulled in. And then go a little further each time. That will elevate your heart rate. It is sublime, truly. And then once you get to the point where you can touch the floor, you can let go of your stability and balance on one leg, which is also really beneficial. Now, the next exercise is on the floor. And let's do the one where you are lying on the floor face up first. If you are, so your knees are bent, your feet are on the floor, and you're face up. Now, you probably know, if you've listened to these podcasts before, you know that there are a few things that I do virtually every single time I get online. And this is one of them. The hip bridge is an exercise that is a position, really. I would say it's elevated from the exercise level to a position level, because being in a perfect hip bridge is a way to do a lot of different things for your body. And this elevated heart rate exercise that I'm going to describe for you next is one of those sort of nuanced versions of the hip bridge that make the hip bridge more challenging. You want to make sure before you do anything in this position that you have the hip bridge correct, which means that your shoulders are flat on the floor, your hands are, for now, beside your body with your palms down. You're going to switch that position in a minute. And then your knees are bent, and your ankles and your knees are in one straight line, up and down. Right? So your toes and your toes don't turn out. Your toes are pointing forward, and your ankles and your knees line up. You don't want you don't want your feet too close to your butt, but you don't want your feet too far away from your butt. You want a straight line. Now, the movement here is not to move your butt up and down, which is the traditional hip dip that we do often in this position, but rather take the left arm and extend it out to the side now with your palm facing up. All right, so what you're going to do is a combination. You want to keep the toes down. You have to keep your both feet flat during this move. You take the left hand and arm and left shoulder, and you're twisting at your torso, lifting your arm up off the floor, keeping it in line with, kind of the same plane of motion. So it was out to the side, perpendicular to the rest of your body. So just keep that one. You're going to make a semicircle, 180 degrees. So from the far left side all the way over to the far right side, where your right hand would be if it were extended straight out. And if you want to extend it straight out to the side so that you know where your left hand needs to hit, that's fine. This is called a bridge reach or a bridge twist. And so you extend your hand back to the starting position and you keep going with the left side and then repeat the same on the right side. The combination of having to isolate one leg for stability in conjunction with the twist and the fact that you've not compromised, but you've made your heart have to work harder by being in this position because it no longer has help from gravity. Same with the next move, which we're going to do. That is, again, these are really easy exercises. These are not super challenging, but it does force your heart to work a little bit harder. Now, if you are relatively fit and you're looking for ways to make this kind of fun, I call them corpse roll-ups or corpse rising. I did with the holiday fitness routine this past year, where you are lying all the way down and then you stand all the way up and then lie all the way down. And then you could do a hip bridge reach with either hand as part of that corpse rising. So you're elevating, you're lifting your body and working against gravity as you stand all the way up, and then you lie all the way back down, slowly having to control your body on the way back down. And then you bend your knees, you lift up, you do one reach, and then you do the other reach, and then you keep that pattern going. So mix and match these exercises at will. The last exercise I'm going to tell you about is in the other position, so also on the floor with your entire body, but this time you're on all fours, you're facing the floor. What do you think I'm going to make you do? Mountain climbers? That is a good one. Push-ups also elevate my heart rate, right? So push-ups and mountain climbers are super fabulous. I love them both. However, I was going to keep it a little bit easier for you. And the reason is because I want to make sure that you have something that you can start with. You can always build from the difficulty level. But if you start too hard, number one, you burn out, you stop listening. But number two, it might be too much for your body. And that we definitely never want. Long gone should be the days when the big corporatized sort of male messaged idea of being perfectly sculpted and bikini body ready are, kind of a factor, a sustainable goal for most people. It just isn't. I don't have that kind of body. I don't care about that kind of a body. It is about your ability to function and to enjoy your life. So let's, cut the crap about all the, perfection that we're seeking 100% of the time. We seek sustainable, functional fitness. We seek life. We seek enjoyment. And the way to do that is to take good care of yourself. So that last move is just something we call a pike squat. And that means that you're in essentially the downward dog position, so pike position, where your butt is up in the air and your hands are on the floor. Now splay your fingers so that you don't mash the heel of your hand into the floor. And then your legs are straight, right? If you can't straighten your legs in this position, it's okay. I see a lot of people that have a hard time straightening the hamstrings completely out. But what you want to do for this pike squat move is to bend your knees and let your body slowly drop closer to the floor, but don't let your knees touch the floor. Then straighten back out into the pike position. Simple move. Downward dog squat or pike squat. Do as many as you can. Pause and then do a second set. And that's it. Those 3 exercises. Again, we've got the bird feeder, standing up, the hip bridge reach, lying down face up, and the pike squat, lying down face down. Have a great day. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you again soon. I'm Coach Kim from InShape Fitness. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon.